What's up? A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend, great Mother's Day weekend as we're back at it this Monday morning. Talk a little college football, talk a little Vols. Vols stayed white hot over the weekend in the recruiting rankings as Jeromy Pruitt in Tennessee landed 4 more 4-star commitments, including a quarterback, D lineman, and linebacker. So that momentum continues for sure. Then earlier or last week, Barton Simmons of CBS Sports ranked his top 25 coaches in college football for 2020, and Jeromy Pruitt landed on that top 25 list. So, Zach, we are here on our quadruple broadcast this morning discussing, has Jeromy Pruitt done enough at Tennessee? 2 seasons and now basically a half an off season. Does he deserve to be in the top 25 when it comes to college football coaches for the 2020 season? So we're going to discuss that. Jeff Rubel is already laughing, crying. Jeff Rubel, the Ohio State fan who watches us religiously, says that this first topic is a joke. This is not my opinion. This is not the big orange glasses up on the bucket that Zach has. That Barton Simmons, who is one of the most respected voices over there at 24/7 and CBS Sports, has Jeromy Pruitt in his top 25. We'll talk about where and does he deserve to be there. Then we'll get into the best and the worst college football coaching jobs in the Power 5. And then, Zach, restaurants are open in all of Nashville and in surrounding counties. Are you going to go to a restaurant later on or at some point this week? That's our discussion so far this morning. Let's get it going.
Yeah, no, I think this is a good question because we're going to ask you guys the comfort level. Now that phase 1, you got a lot of phases to go through this thing, but how do you feel? I'm really curious to see how people react. Got a little, I don't know if you can tell, got a little bit of sunburn on the old nose.
Yeah.
Been rollerblading all week, all weekend,
I thought you were talking about me. I've got a sunburn on my nose too.
Well, I think we both do. What were you out and about?
Picnic.
Picnic.
Mother's Day picnic in the backyard of my mother-in-law. Social distancing, of course, but yeah, a little sunburn. It was a surprise sunny day yesterday as I got sunburns on the arms as well. But let's get this thing going, Zach. Very excited about this.
I'd like to see more sunny days ahead. Before we get started officially, though, we do ask you guys to share the broadcast. Bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, you'll see those 3 little dots. Tap that bad boy and retweet us. We need to pop up in your Twitter timeline. Also, Facebook. What's going on, Facebookers? More people will walk on in here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you guys do, please share the show. Bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring, and we need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. For everybody else, if you're watching on Instagram Live, hello, we welcome you guys in. If you're watching on Twitch, what's up, gamers? And if you're watching on YouTube, what's going on, YouTubers? We got a lot to discuss and a lot to talk about on this Monday morning. Look, Clowney Watch is still out there for the rest of the week. Well, I'm sure we'll have a show on that. We'll have some more topics pop up. Enjoyed The Last Dance last night, but we're talking college football this morning. So let's get ready to roll.
Yeah, all right, let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by TennesseeTickets.com. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports, our Instagram page at A to Z Sports, Facebook at A to Z Sports Nashville, Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. And we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they truly do make everything happen for our show, for our business, and you guys. TennesseeTickets.com. If you want Titans tickets, go there. TennesseeTickets.com. They're the only secondary ticket market who will fully guarantee your money if no games happen this fall. So the place to trust. Titans 20, Titans 20 for $20 off Titans tickets purchases as well. TennesseeTickets.com. Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness. One 15-minute workout, full body electronic muscle stimulation, simulates 5+ hours in the weight room. The results are real. I've had the results. I'm working to get back to my pre-quarantine results as well. Mandu.com, back open in Brentwood and Cool Springs. Also, the Tucker Agency, Nashville's independent insurance agency, giving you relief by saving you an average of 20% on your personal insurance at TuckerTN.com. Calvin and Subtle is where to go for your hardwood flooring needs in Middle Tennessee. CalvinandSubtle.com, or call them for an appointment, 615-448-6414. Zach, Barton Simmons at CBS Sports last week did his top 25 Power 5 coaches for 2020. Now, he made this clear in the article. This is not a resume. This is not a career achievement power rankings. This is specifically for the 2020 season, the top 25 Power 5 football coaches.
But so timeout.
Okay.
You said that and you prefaced that. I'm glad that you did because that's
Barton,
what Barton.
This is Barton Simmons. Yes.
I get you. I'm not an idiot. I understand what you just said. Here's my issue with that, though, right? To actually fully rank, you do like the history of what you've done does have to come into play.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. No doubt. But there are some coaches like David Shaw, for example, at Stanford. I mean, 5 years ago, David Shaw was a arguably fringe top 5 guy. And now Stanford has not been as good as they have been
based on his history, right? So it's kind of, and that's kind of the issue, talking about this is you have these coaches and they've done, so like David Shaw's a great example. Maybe David Shaw has a longer resume to actually go by based on of a head coach. We're going to talk about Jeromy Pruitt in a little different way. So I do. It's kind of a cop-out, right? You can't tell me that. No, you can't tell me that you can't look at my past, and then that's really the one thing that you got to base things off.
Well, I think it's also a way to discuss the up and coming head coaches, right?
I get that, but Hurricane 2448 on IG credentials have got to come into play, and I agree with that. So I think they will,
and they will for sure. So let me read to you what Barton Simmons said about Jeromy Pruitt. This is a quote. "We are currently in the midst of a Tennessee recruiting flurry, but I'm not letting that cloud my judgment on a guy who with 13 career wins as a head coach. What has me more optimistic is the way he's come to those wins. It looks like Pruitt is building Tennessee to last. He's recruiting at a high level in the right places. He seems to be building a team with a foundation to win at the highest level with consistency. When success comes, it won't just be a flash in the pan, given the disciplined approach to the roster building and the on-field product." That was Barton Simmons ranking Jeromy Pruitt 21st in the country for 2020. So 21st in the country. He's ahead of Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, Gary Patterson at TCU, Kyle Whittingham at Utah, and Mike Leach now at Mississippi State. So 3 of the 4 coaches, Jeromy Pruitt is ahead. Tennessee at one point has tried to hire as their own head coach. So your initial
missed on so many head coaches. Okay. They tried to hire a lot of them.
Well, that's very true. They probably tried to hire all the 20 coaches ahead of them too. So Zach, your initial reaction to Barton Simmons' justification, if you want to call it, on why he put Jeromy Pruitt 21.
Here was and this is all honesty when I read this, because I know Jeromy Pruitt's record. When he said, "We're currently in the midst of Tennessee recruiting flurry, but I'm not letting that cloud my judgment on a guy with 13 career wins," but he should have said, "and 12 career losses," because 13 and 12 is his record. Now, taking over from Tennessee of what they were absolutely has to be recognized. That's why I agree with credentials have to come into play. The previous coaching staff that a head coach took over for, I think has to come into play. I think you and I both know what a job Jeromy Pruitt has done, on the heels of Butch Jones and the disaster he was, and the Brady Hoke interim job at the very end of the season. Look, I think Jeromy Pruitt is very well respected in the coaching ranks. And that's kind of what we're talking about, coaching ranks. I think coaches respect Jeromy Pruitt because Jeromy Pruitt is not the prototypical, like in the NFL, we see the Sean McVays of the world, right? You see the Kyle Shanahans, you see these young, the Matt LaFleurs, you see these young guns coming in that are just the genius, kind of been given a great job. Jeromy Pruitt hasn't had that. I mean, he has started from the bottom and he has just chopped away, going from big program, working under very good head coaches, whether you're at Georgia, Alabama, or Florida State. And now he's finally gotten his opportunity, taking over a very prestigious program in Tennessee. And so far in 2 years, I think he's done a solid job. But I do think that he has, as we talk about the credentials and resume, he's got some really big eye openers of, that does not look good. And I think that's where I struggle of the justification of, I'll just give an example. Jeromy Pruitt's 21, Gary Patterson's 23. Now, Gary Patterson is a head coach. He's done a tremendous job at TCU. He went to a Rose Bowl. I mean, he's been in big games. Now, here of late, they have not been consistently excellent, but I don't know. You talk about credentials. Do I think Gary Patterson is a better head coach than Jeromy Pruitt? I do. I think Gary Patterson is better. But with the rankings of what this is, I definitely think you can't tell me you're not doing something when you are. I think that the recruiting of what Tennessee has done here in the last week or two influenced these rankings, and you can't deny that.
Right, but and that's what Barton says, is that Tennessee is recruiting or building it to last. And that's
but he's saying that he's not clouding his judgment, and you and I both know what Tennessee's done in the last week or two clouds everybody's judgment.
Well, and this came out the middle of last week before the last 4 commitments.
Still, it didn't matter.
Right, sure.
We had a show on that. That didn't matter.
Yeah, but okay, so the part that is the most important part of Barton Simmons' explanation of why Jeromy Pruitt is ranked 21st in his top 25 is it looks like Pruitt is building Tennessee to last. He's recruiting at a high level in the right places. He seems to be building a team with a foundation to win at the highest level with consistency. When success comes, it won't just be a flash in the pan. So he's building the roster the right way. And when you go, and everybody's talking about this recruiting class and what he's been doing, and you bring up like what he's gotten over the last 15 days, he's gotten the number 1 linebacker, a 5-star edge rusher, a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, O-line, D-tackle, linebacker, and DB. They're all 4 stars. That's like every position group. He's got at least 1 4-star in every position group on offense and defense over the last 15 days. Then he got the number 1 JUCO running back and another 3-star defensive back as well. So he's recruiting in the right places, which is what Barton's saying. He's going and getting recruits in Florida State's backyard. He's going in the state of Florida, in Pahokee area, the southern Florida area, where Miami and Florida, the Florida Gators usually get a lot of athletes. He's going into the Carolinas, and he's picking a lot of the big-time players in the state of Georgia. When Philip Fulmer had Tennessee really rolling in the 90s, and everybody talking about the decade of dominance of the 90s of Tennessee, they were getting players in Georgia, Carolinas, and in Florida. That is where Jeromy Pruitt's going, and he's not getting the type of recruits who just have stars by their name. He's getting the guys that can build, that have the right mindset, and I truly feel like Jeromy Pruitt is building it to last, not like Butch Jones was building it to help him extend his contract. Butch Jones was going to be shown as a fraud at some point. It just, when was it going to happen? And Josh Dobbs was able to extend that coaching career at Tennessee for Butch Jones. So here's the question that we want to dive into. Has Jeromy Pruitt done enough already to justify him being in the top 25 of these rankings? Has Jeromy Pruitt done enough to justify these top 25 rankings? Before I dive into your comments, Zach is going to tell you guys about the Tucker Agency.
Yes, Tucker Agency is there to help you. One of the reasons why we signed them up for presenting sponsorship is, look, during the coronavirus time, we're like, we got to give back to our viewers and our listeners. Maybe give them a way to make some money because things are tight. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Now, this is what you can do. TuckerTN.com is the website. Will Tucker and his agency are here to restructure your insurance and save you some money. Average customer saves 20%. That could be a couple $100 extra in the month of May, June, July, August, September, moving forward. So when you don't have the traditional income that you've had, you can save a little bit more on the insurance that you're required to have, right? You got to have home insurance. You got to have car insurance if you're driving down the road, renter's insurance, life insurance. He'll restructure individually or the entire umbrella. Tucker TN. You can email Will, the owner of the company, directly. Will@TuckerTN.com. That's Will@TuckerTN.com. And just say, look, drop him an email and say, I would love for you to look over my insurance policy. Ask him, how much money can you save me? That's a great question. email him, will@tuckertn.com. How much money can you save me on my insurance? And he will do the work. His team will do the work to put you in the best position possible to thrive. That is tuckertn.com.
All right, A to Z Sports. Follow us on our podcast feed, A to Z Sports, wherever you get your podcast. Also powered by TennesseeTickets.com, the place to go to trust to spend your hard-earned money on Titans tickets, Titans 20, to save $20 off Titans tickets. So has Jeromy Pruitt done enough to justify the top 25 ranking for 2020 that Barton Simmons has given him? Jonathan says the Vols are killing it, recruiting the best class so far. And Donald says hell to the no. Sean says basing a ranking on what ifs doesn't seem very solid. If they haven't done it yet, don't count it. Brent says he's got 3 5-stars committed and a bunch of 4-stars, currently number 2 class. Vic talking about Fulmer also recruiting out west. Sean says no. Bama Shane says I'll let the 13-12 record decide on that question. Let's see. I want to get to here you go. Ethan Ramsey says, who did Pruitt lose to last year? No, he's not. Knoxville VFL says Tennessee has been bad since the firing of Fulmer. And I'm trying to read some more comments. Jeff says, I'm sorry, losing to Georgia State at home automatically removes you from the top 25 consideration. So I knew everybody would say losing to Georgia State, losing to BYU is still being held against Jeromy Pruitt. And I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So, but this is all about looking towards 2020, right? And how they finished 2019.
Well, it's not all looking towards 2020. That's the point. That's the point I made at the very beginning of the show. It's not all looking for 2020. It's also what have you done? It is. You cannot deny that. It has to go into these rankings, and it has to go into the decision whether any of these, and the question that we're asking, as you said, is has he done enough? Right? You asked, has he done enough? Doesn't talk about 2020 moving forward. Have you done enough? Actually talks about the past.
I think at this point, look, the Georgia State and BYU losses to open the season were one of the most embarrassing things that's happened to Tennessee over the last 10 years. And that's saying a lot. That was that embarrassing. I'm putting it up there with the Greg Schiano day, with the whole John Curry situation, with Butch Jones and 5-star Hearts. It was as embarrassing, if not more embarrassing, than some of those things I just named. But the fact is, they were able to bounce back from that. They went out there and hung tough. They won games. I know the schedule, the wins they got were not as impressive as you would like, but they hung tough at Alabama when Tua went down, and that game was at least a little tight for Bama fans in that fourth quarter. They showed the ability to overcome adversity, which I think is important looking forward. That I also believe that if they did not start 0-2, they wouldn't have finished with an 8-5 record. They probably wouldn't have won some of those SEC games later in the year if they would have beaten Georgia State or BYU like they were supposed to. So I think they learned a lot, and I think that was a big learning lesson for Pruitt as a head coach and for his program, for his roster to be able to overcome that adversity and work through it, win games, get hot, now carry that momentum from a bowl win over the offseason with recruiting. But has he done enough to justify top 25? I think it's a little bit much. I think Barton Simmons has no tie. The only tie that Barton Simmons has to the University of Tennessee is that he's from Nashville. He went to Princeton. He played in the Ivy League, and he went to NBA. But he's not a Tennessee fan. He's been a guy who's been one of the bigger voices at 24/7 Sports for a long time as a head recruiting analyst. But it's not like he has a Tennessee tie automatically or a Jeromy Pruitt tie automatically. So I think he's.
I'll say this.
Okay.
So if you bring that up, look, we know Barton, and this is one thing I do value for Barton. I think Barton and the 24/7 Sports whole group, what are they? They're a recruiting website. Okay. 2 things that I do know. Barton Simmons knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to recruiting. He's been doing that a very, very long time at a very high level. Very well respected. But Austin, you and I both know, because we're in the biz too, you put something up about Tennessee, Vol Twitter is going to get a hold of it, and those clicks are going to go up. Clicks equals money for 24/7 Sports. I see Shannon Terry tweet about that all the time. So I do know the politics involved in this. Now, you can put whoever you want on your own top 25. I don't sit there and say you can't do something. You're entitled to your opinion. But I also do know the innards, as they say down south, of how this whole thing works. Sure. I agree with you. And look, I agree. Bam Shane brought you up, says hanging tough doesn't necessarily equal top 25.
No, Bam Shane, that was a premature comment there, bro, because you got to listen to my entire statement.
Well, you drug it on, so I'm not going to sit there and
That's what we do. That's what we do for a living. We talk for
No, actually, Bam Shane predicted what you were going to say. So it wasn't a knock. He actually called out what you were going to say. Danny also brings up, he says, I love what Pruitt brought the team back from how they started in the season, but I still have to see it play out. Play that way all season, and then we'll talk. Here's where I'm at. I was impressed with what Jeromy Pruitt did after the debacle of Georgia State. Losing, he got a lot of criticism all over the country. I'm not just talking about Knoxville media after losing to Georgia State to open the season. It was basically like, this is the wrong guy for a program who is yet to find the right one in a couple of decades. But he didn't let that, he wasn't wavered. He kept going forward, and he ended the season very strongly. Here's my two things, all right? This is why I think he's 26 or below. I think he's right there on the cusp. I'm not sitting here saying he's 40 or 50, but here's why I can't put Jeromy Pruitt in the top 25 is recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. I understand that. But recruits also, first and foremost, they don't sign on May 11th. They don't sign in the spring. They sign on the dotted line on National Signing Day in December. So all this is just talk. It's all verbal jargon. And all these videos, they're hype videos, and Tennessee fans, they're going crazy over them. Rah, rah, shish, boom, bah. I've got to see it on the dotted line, and then I've got to see it work after that. The other thing that I think is very important to me, he beat a lot of bad teams. And look, taking care of business is very, very important, right? Beating the Vanderbilts and the Missouris of the world, you need to do that. That's what Tennessee should do. And they beat South Carolina and Mississippi State, you should beat those teams. Those are not very good teams overall. But can Jeromy Pruitt coach his guys up going into year 3 and come out hot and beat a team that he's not supposed to beat? That's where you get into the top 25. Once you beat Georgia, Florida, or Alabama, I'm not even saying Alabama.
Well, and Rob
Georgia
brings
or
up
Florida, you can now be in the top 25.
He did beat Auburn on the road, and that Auburn team was a highly touted top 25 team. So he did beat somebody. He was I think Tennessee was like a 3-touchdown underdog against Auburn and went into Auburn and won. And that was a brilliantly coached game by Jeromy Pruitt. But he also
those games don't really mean that much, though.
Why?
Auburn in the West,
because they didn't fit your narrative.
No, the narrative is the script to get to the SEC East.
But Zach, you literally said you have to beat somebody that you're not expected to beat, and he did. He has.
He beat them once in a game, but the season didn't matter.
Okay. It was
no. Let's talk about it. No, I think fair point. You brought it up, but what did the Auburn game actually mean? Nada to Tennessee.
The Auburn game, it was a notch. It was a buy-in point for the players.
Their season was done.
No, Zach, their season wasn't done. What I was actually going to say after that Auburn game, they beat top 25 Auburn. They beat top 25 Kentucky in that season. And then they shit the bed the last 2 weeks of the year, got boat raced by Missouri and Vanderbilt, and it was all for naught. But that Auburn win did matter. It was a level of buy-in from portions of that roster, and it showed you how good of a defensive coach Jeromy Pruitt is. And Bama Shane's doing LOL top 25 Kentucky. Shane, that Kentucky team deserved to be top 25. They were a really good football team, and they put tons of players into the NFL. You cannot discredit Mark Stoops.
That was not your average Kentucky team.
It was not.
That needs to be known.
And I'll say this. You know where Mark Stoops is on Barton Simmons' top 25? 15th. And so that kind of tells you what Barton is doing with this top 25. He's got Mark Stoops top 15 at Kentucky. That's showing you how he's putting what the coach can do and really weighing it about what the program can do for the coach. That it takes a lot better of a coaching job for Mark Stoops to go to a bowl game than for Gus Malzahn to go to a bowl game or for Jeromy Pruitt to go to a bowl game. Like Mark Stoops, I thought deserved to be in the consideration for SEC Coach of the Year last year for how he handled that season. So Mark Stoops deserves a lot of credit for that team he had in 2018.
All right, I want to spit some knowledge. Sometimes you guys spit some knowledge for new guys, as they say. And I want to find it actually so I could feature it. But Weston Rohde, bro, I don't know if you just entered the chain. We've been doing this for multiple years. But let's feature old Weston's comment on Facebook. And he says, speaking about us, they aren't Tennessee fans. It's all Bama homers. I hope you're not talking about Austin. I went to Ole Miss, and Austin actually went to Tennessee. So no Bama homers here. I can't stand Bama. Now, do I respect what they've built since 2007? Hell yes, I do. But I have no tie to Tennessee, okay? So that's how this show works. I think we're critiquing – I think we're giving Jeromy Pruitt – again, it's my opinion, but I think that we've both given Jeromy Pruitt – the respect that he actually deserves. I also think the two of us and a lot of people are very, very intrigued with this year and Jeromy Pruitt, right? This is going to be a defining year from Jeromy Pruitt because he superseded expectations after those 2 losses last year, right?
Right.
And can he do that? Tennessee's not going to lose to Georgia State year in, year out. That was just it was a happenstance.
And exactly. I agree. And look, at this point last year, CBS Sports ranked Jeromy Pruitt 52nd out of 65 Power 5 coaches.
And Weston corrects that he wasn't talking about us. He was talking about other people's in the comments. Fair to Weston.
Fair there. Okay. But Jeromy Pruitt this time last year, 52nd out of 65. Now, he might not be top 25, but he is definitely at least 20 spots up from where that was. I think Jeromy Pruitt fits into that, like Zach, you mentioned, like that 26 to 35 range. I think that's fair for Jeromy Pruitt right now. Now, Barton Simmons might be sticking his neck out there so he can go out there and say, look, I had Jeromy Pruitt. I was higher on Jeromy Pruitt before everybody else was, because that's what people like to do. Like, he's got Scott Satterfield from Louisville at 17. He also has Jim Harbaugh at 18. So Jim Harbaugh has dropped off some. Jeromy Pruitt, Scott Satterfield, Mark Stoops, their names have risen. So Barton Simmons is trying to be on the forefront of the Jeromy Pruitt hype. Maybe he's seeing something different than others are willing to go to at this point. Is he top 21? No, I think back half of the 20s, early 30s, that makes the most sense for Pruitt.
Yeah, and we talk about this in the NFL a lot. It's a lot easier to go from 3-13 to 8-8.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to go from 8-8 to, let's say, 12-4. College football is the exact same, right? Jeromy Pruitt has done the job he needed to do to go from a 4-5 win team now to an 8-win team. Jim Harbaugh, who's above him on the coaching ranking, that's not his job. Jim Harbaugh's job is to go undefeated or with 1 loss, 11-1 or something like that, and beat Ohio State. So the expectations for these coaches, and I think that goes into the ranking, you go into Jeromy Pruitt, he's an 8-win coach coming off of that season. Like, what are your expectations, Austin, going into this season, and how can they be reached?
Well, and it's hard because how many games are they going to play? Like the Oklahoma game is staring them and burning a hole in their schedule. But Tennessee cannot finish with under worse than an 8-4 regular season record, which means that's
going to be tough, bud.
Which means they have to take care of their business where they can. Like, they have to beat all the SEC teams they beat last year. They've got to beat the bottom half of the East. They've got to win their 3 non-conference games besides Oklahoma. And then they have to play tough with Oklahoma, Florida. And I would say they're out of the 4 toughest games, which are Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Florida. They probably have a better chance to have a close game with Florida and Oklahoma, where be in it in the fourth quarter. Just, you never know what's going to happen, right? Just try to be within striking distance to make a move. That's Oklahoma and Florida, the 2 best options for that. Alabama and Georgia, I think, are so much deeper and better than everybody else. But they have to go at least 8-4 in the regular season. Now, that 8-4 will be so much different than the 7-5 they just had because of the quality of games they would have to win to get there.
Yeah, and I think this is what you have to look at. We sat there, had a little argument about the Auburn and what it actually meant in his first year. I discredited it more than you discredited it. Here is something that I'm curious to see what you think about it. But if Tennessee, Oklahoma in Norman is going to be featured on everybody's television, right? Two big name programs, Oklahoma, new, Kyler Murray not there, but that brand is strong. Everybody's waiting for Tennessee to get back, as they say. We back. You know how Tennessee's that we back? That can be justified a lot if they can beat Oklahoma in the number 2 game, or the week 2. If they can do that, then the recognition will start to be there, and that's beating teams that you're not supposed to beat. That's where Jeromy Pruitt is justified of being a top 25 coach, because, hell, he would have said the first 2 games you couldn't beat Georgia State or BYU. A year later, you're beating Charlotte, well coached. And if you can beat Oklahoma, that's telling you something that they've learned a lot of lessons. They recruited well. And more importantly, the players have developed. Now, I don't know what Garantano is going to be. And I think that's a big deal. But that number, that week 2 game could be huge for Tennessee and the program overall.
Yeah, a couple things on that Oklahoma matchup. Matthew brings up, while Jalen Hurts is gone, Spencer Rattler was a 5-star quarterback that came in and sat behind Jalen Hurts for a year. So Lincoln Riley just repeats and just replenishes his quarterback room, where he's got a talented dude back there playing quarterback. Now, Stephen Wells says, wrong. Alabama will fall again. Have some faith, Austin. Look, it's not my job to have faith in Tennessee. That's not who I am or what I do. Like, I look realistically, and I think a realistic expectation for Tennessee is an 8-4 record in 2020 if they can get all the games in. And not all 8-4s are created equal, right? Just like the Titans, 9-7s are not created equal. The 9-7 this past year for the Titans was a lot better than the 9-7 2 years ago with what Ryan Tannehill did. Jeromy Pruitt's 8-4 this year will be so much better and different than Butch Jones's 8-4 in 2016, because Butch failed expectations where Pruitt would have met expectations. And so you have to understand the differences in what expectations should be. A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. I will say this, because the Vols have been recruiting white hot. And yes, they are the number 2 team in the country when it comes to recruiting rankings, but they have 21 commits. And so I'm going to go out on a limb. I do not expect Tennessee to finish in the top 5 when it comes to recruiting classes. I think they're closer to 8 to 10 than they are the top 5. So
still a big improvement.
And they were 10th last year. They're already, when you look at like the points they get, which is how 24/7 does this, they're already like 9 points away from matching their entire class from a year ago. But they can only grow by 4 more players. So they don't have as high as they could go. And so they've got a lot. Sure, they're 12 3-stars. You might have 3 or 4 of those guys become 4-star players, so that'll help. But they are going to hit their ceiling for a recruiting class a lot earlier than everybody else. So they'll probably finish 8th. But you know what? If you have a 10th class last year and an 8th class this year, you win some games, then now you can go do it again and get 3 top 10 classes in a row. And now Tennessee is starting to build something they can compete with.
I'll say this on that note. Tennessee would rather trade the publicity that they've had over the last couple of weeks than a top 5 rating. I truly believe that. If nobody is talking about recruiting in college, nobody's talking about college football. Everybody's talking about the damn coronavirus, all the bad eaters out there. For this, Tennessee has gotten so much positive publicity in the last 3 weeks. They'd trade that instead of a top 5 class. I truly believe that. Because, I mean, everybody's scratching their head saying, what's going on in Knoxville? We've done multiple shows just based on the recruits they get. Players are making hype videos. I'm seeing Power T more than I've ever. Hell, Dave Portnoy was wearing a Power T shirt yesterday on his pizza review. So they're getting more publicity when people are actually paying attention to social media because there's nothing else going on.
Sure.
I also think that is a benefit for the university and football program.
They're taking advantage of a time where not a lot is happening, and they're the talk of college football. Like, you go to 247sports.com, not the Tennessee Vols page, but the main page or CBS Sports college football page. And the Vols are one of the top leading stories because of all the recruiting. Now, Taylor, Rob, and Greg are right. Some of the 3-star players will get dropped off for better players. Like, they'll churn the bottom half of the bottom portion of that recruiting class until they get the right 25 guys they want. But they're not going to finish top 5, in my opinion. They'll have to scrap and claw and fight to finish top 5, which would be really impressive, but they're more likely to get top 8 than they are top 5.
I'm going to do something for the first time in A to Z sports history. A to Z sports history is being made today. I'm giving out 2 loves at once, and they go to Weston and Jeff Rubel. Those guys, of what they've been talking about on Facebook, I've been reading them as I've been doing the show. Hilarious. SEC Big Ten showdown. Who's better, Ohio State, the Big Ten, or the SEC? I mean, Weston just dropped a "let me fake a heart attack so I could get out of the SEC" line, which whenever you do that and take a shot at Urban Meyer, you're going to get a like or a love. So Weston and Jeff both get the love of the show so far. That has been very entertaining in a show where we've been talking a little bit more about Tennessee.
Yes. Yeah. All right. A to Z Sports. Let's involve Ohio State a little bit in this conversation. We're going to do our best and worst series. What is the best coaching job in all of college football? Okay. So let's talk about all of it. We'll take all of the Power 5. What is the best coaching job in the entire Power 5 of college football? But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the pulse of fitness. One 15-minute workout at Mandu is like 5+ hours in the weight room because of full body electronic muscle stimulation. The science is real. The results are real. They got the in-body analysis to show your progress. Before quarantine, pre-quarantine, I was down on 9% body fat. I got to work. I lost a couple percents there during that 6 weeks off, but working to get back because Mandu is back open in Brentwood and Cool Springs. I'm working out again tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free, and you can absolutely feel safe at Mandu because it is a private workout. They clean everything in the studio after every use. They're at maximum. There are 3 people in the entire damn building. So Mandu.com, your first workout, absolutely free. Mandu.com.
A to Z Sports. We are powered by Tennessee Tickets. Titans 20. If you want Titans tickets, Titans 20, get $20 off of that promo code. Plus refunds if they don't play the game. That's big. That's something StubHub will give you a damn gift card. Right. You'll actually get your money back with Tennessee Tickets. TennesseeTickets.com.
All right. So the best job in college football, in all of Power 5 college football, what is the best coaching job? So Zach, where do you want to start with this? Because I think there are 3, and we're not talking about like Coach Orgeron and what he's accomplished. We're talking about what program is the best coaching job to be at in the country. Like, let's just say you strip away all head coaches from all programs, and which job is the most gun for job in all of Power 5?
So I kind of justify this as, because I do think they're close. Like, there's so many close programs. I'm going to go with something, and it's a different philosophy. Wait, who'd you say your 3 were?
I haven't said any of them yet, but I do think it's between Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State.
So I'm going to go away. I'm not going to go with any of those 3. I'm not going to go any of those 3. I think it's LSU. And it's not just because they won the national championship this year. I think that could justify a lot. I don't think Ed Orgeron is that great of a head coach, but I think he's got unbelievable players because he coaches at LSU. LSU's recruiting base, because of where they're located and where they can pick from, they can get guys from Texas. They basically are the big brother of Arkansas, the entire state. Right. They can get Louisiana. documented of how good their players get. And now, because of there's some cool factor with Joe Burrow, the likability of just Baton Rouge, the party crazies of the atmosphere, right? They've got Death Valley at night. My personal opinion, the best job is LSU. I think, look, Texas and USC, I think also you could throw into the mix because of their just because of the money and how prestigious they are. But overall, I think LSU is the best job. That would be I think that would be easy to go to LSU and win because of all the things I just said.
LSU I said Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State as my top three. LSU is definitely in that next group, along with Texas is just, I think Texas, because A&M went to the SEC, that really hurt University of Texas. Because at the same time, Mac Brown went out, you had Charlie Strong come in and fail, then now you've got Tom Herman working to get back. But now kids in high school football in Texas can say, I want to go play in the SEC, but not have to leave the state. And Texas A&M, that's got all the great facilities you could ask for, is right there in the state. And I think, and Johnny Manziel made A&M really cool too. So I think Texas was hurt by A&M. So I'm going to take Texas out. I think LSU and USC could be thrown into the conversation of the top five. USC is just so weird though, because Taylor brought up USC on Periscope, and he talked about the easy fertile recruiting ground. And then you've also got the Pac-12 as a conference, and you see Taylor's comment there on your screen. But for whatever reason, USC has been wasting that opportunity. The Pac-12 is
because they've struggled with when Pete Carroll left them, they were in shambles. They got a drunk for a head coach. That'll always hurt you, right?
But they got out of that. Like they got away.
But it's hard to. Like there are repercussions of that. And I look, USC is something I don't want to discredit them, but they've had their struggles to get back to where they are just because they haven't found the right guys and they cheated and got caught for it.
Yeah, but it's been so far removed from those sanctions that you should, Penn State has recovered from Jerry Sandusky. That's impressive. That Penn State has gotten out of that, but USC, you're still giving that as an excuse for USC to be down. Now
they got the wrong guy too, right? Steve Sarkisian set them back quite a bit.
And now they're, playing around with Clay Helton. Clay Helton is he fired or not?
He should be, but
right. But USC is having issues.
Sark is the reason.
Well, yeah, but USC is also having athletic department issues as well, that they are just wasting the opportunity to bounce back from that, while the Pac-12 as a whole, look, Oregon is fine with Mario Cristobal. Washington was kind of the class of the conference for a couple of years, and now their head coach is up and retired. Chris Peterson did. Everybody kind of forgets about that. But USC had an opportunity to own the Pac-12, and they haven't been able to do that. So when I go to it, I think –
why not LSU then? Because that's mine.
Because
it's going to be hard to argue.
Because can they replicate the Joe Burrow, Joe Brady marriage? And that's something that I don't know. How can they follow up this year? Because this year you can talk about it being the singular greatest college football season.
It is.
We talked about that. But what do they do now? That's just 1 year. As far as I'm concerned, Ed Orgeron did it for 1 year.
But also, no, and over the last 10 to 15.
I want to see more of it, though.
I know, but all they've been missing was the quarterback, right?
True.
Justified. They had everything else, and they've had everything else.
And they got it for 1 year. I want to see Ed Orgeron do it a couple more times before I can just say, okay, it's more than just Joe Burrow and Joe Brady.
But now people want to be the next Joe Burrow. They didn't used to have that. You never want to be the next Matt Mock.
Well, but they've also lost both Joes in the same year, right? They had 1 year together. That was it. 1 year for Joe Brady and Joe Burrow. They're both gone. So now what's the next step, and can they sustain
Burrow
it?
was there more than 1 year, but at playing at the level.
I said they were there together. Joe Brady and Joe Burrow were there together 1 year. That's all. Now they're both gone. What happens now? And who's the next quarterback? Because, look, sure, they've got tons of talent all over the place. But for me, if you're talking historically, it's Alabama, and I don't think you can argue whatsoever. And sure, Alabama have rough patches with probation and all that and bad hires through the late 90s and most of the 2000s. But right now, it's Clemson. Clemson's the best program in the country. They're the best job in the country if you want to go there because they dominate the ACC more than any other conference dominates or any other team dominates their conference. Clemson is so far ahead of everybody else in the ACC. They're more ahead of Alabama than the SEC. I mean, LSU.
How much is this going to hurt them moving forward? We saw LSU, right? The competition, once they got into the big game, they couldn't hold up because LSU had been battle tested. But
they
that wasn't proved their value.
I don't think Clemson lost the national championship like that to LSU because they played a weaker schedule. Like I don't buy into that. I think that's just because LSU was that much better last year. Like I think LSU was so damn good in this past football season that look, Clemson had a really good team. And they're going to have another great team, too, coming in. And they're building that. And they're going to continue to stack together national champion caliber teams. But I think the best coaching job right now to go out and get would be Clemson because they're in a different class when it comes to the ACC. And that machine is rolling so strong. I really don't see it slowing down.
Staples 615 brings up something, a program I hate. I freaking hate them. But they're prestigious. What about Notre Dame? Is that a job like you with the possibilities of Notre Dame and then plus what the damn committee and everybody else gives Notre Dame just because they're Notre Dame? Ugh, I hate Notre Dame. Jesus, I hate Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, I think Brian Kelly, and we're talking about the coaching rankings like of coaches,
is a terrible person.
But yeah, sure. I think he's Bama Shane says Notre Dame is definitely a top 5 job. True. I think they're fringe top 5 because now I've named Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, LSU, USC, Notre Dame's in that next conversation as well. I just feel like they play by different rules because they are independent. I know they got the half-ass tie with the ACC, and Dwayne's or Jeffrey says Notre Dame, let's keep it to Power 5 teams only. Like they kind of count when it comes to that. But like you can make a lot of money at Notre Dame because they act so independently. So I don't know. I don't like I think Notre Dame is their best days are still behind them. Now, Brian Kelly has done a pretty good job over the last couple of years, but they're still second fiddle for sure.
And NBC, as Rob brings up, they do have that network. That's big.
Which is why if you're the head coach at Notre Dame, you can make a ton of money.
Yeah, I just hate them. I'm going LSU.
Do you have any other reasons why you hate Notre Dame? Or are you just going to say hate them?
Oh, I mean, I can go into why all I hate Notre Dame, and it's based on. I think that and it goes back to the. I want to be very, very careful with my words, but I believe that they feel entitled because it is based off of the religious beliefs. I believe that because it is a Catholic college, a very prestigious, I don't want to discredit that, but they believe because of that stigma, right? LSU, Alabama, Clemson, they don't have those religious ties. I think that plays a big part of feeling they deserve something because, again, you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. But I think that plays in a factor. And that is off-putting to me. I think everybody should be on an even playing field, whether you believe in Allah, Buddhism, if you're Jewish, if you're Catholic, if you're Christian, Muslim, I don't care. And I think that plays in a fact. And that's another reason why I don't particularly like the way they carry themselves because they think they're better than others when I don't believe that's the case. And that's just my personal opinion. It's like I've got plenty of Catholic friends. It's not based on that. It's based on you can't think you're better than somebody because you have a certain religion and you got a movie made after you. Congratulations, Rudy. But that doesn't mean anything in today's society, even though they still get the TV contract. And I know money rules the world and all that, but It's arrogance. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Rob was saying. Rob, they used the Catholicism backing as arrogance for their football program.
Right. And I'm talking about Notre Dame. Look, don't get my words misconstrued. I'm not talking about Catholics all around the world. I'm talking about individual Notre Dame. They are treated different, and they treat each other different, and they treat others different because of this arrogance and it's justified. And that's just because, again, it's their school is based off of a religious belief.
Well, and then Jeff Ribble says, which is why BYU is so likable. They don't shove it in everybody's face. They just do I agree with that, Jeff. I think most people like
TCU is a Christian university, right?
Right.
You don't see Horned Frogs, going off and saying that
people,
stuff doesn't stink.
Like whenever people see BYU having a good season, people are typically like, oh, good job for BYU. Let's see how they can turn this thing into whatever they turn it into. But Notre Dame is just the arrogance they use.
And Bama Shane brings up again. Bama Shane brings up what Hugh Freeze did at Ole Miss, and exactly. I couldn't stand how Hugh Freeze would walk into homes and think that he's better and pray all the time in front of it. You can do whatever you want. That's fine. I'm not saying Hugh Freeze cannot do that. But when the rubber met the road, he was calling hookers, and that is not truly
he was
what he was portraying.
He was phony. Yeah. Both sides of his mouth for sure. All right, A to Z Sports, the best and worst brought to you by the Tucker Agency, saving you 20% on your personal insurance, tuckertn.com. We've talked about the best, what's the best program in college or in the best coaching job in college football? What's the worst Power 5 coaching job in college football? I think there's a lot more options here, but the worst coaching job in all of Power 5 schools. But first, Zach, tell the people about Calvin and Subtle.
Yeah, if you need new hardwood floors, there's one place to go. It's Calvin and Subtle. CalvinandSubtle.com. They got a very clean website. Like them on Facebook, like their social media. But really, it's the process. That's how easy it is. You give Calvin and Subtle a call, 615-448-6414. That's 615-448-6414. You call them up. You schedule an appointment. 1 to 2 days, they'll set it up. And especially in the different times we live in, they're going to make sure they use the CDC precautions. They're going to wear a mask. They're going to wear gloves, and they're going to check out your space. Maybe you want new hardwood floors in your bathroom, your kitchen, your bedroom. They will make it happen, and it's very easy. You can either go into their showroom, find your perfect hardwood flooring, or they can bring you samples. They've got a wide range, whether it's $30 per square foot or just $1.99. That's very cost effective, but the quality is unmatched too. That's key. Turnaround time. That's another benefit of Calvin and Subtle. 1 to 2 weeks, they're going to order the material, they're going to install it, and you're going to be sliding like Tom Cruise, baby. That's how easy it is. CalvinandSubtle.com, or you can give them a call, 615-448-6414.
There's a development on the show with Donald, who watches the show all the time, which I'm very excited to get to. Asking the question, what's the worst coaching job in all of Power 5 college football? Also, don't forget TennesseeTickets.com for Titans tickets. Titans 20 to save $20 off any ticket purchase. TennesseeTickets.com. Trust them with your money because they will give you a full refund of your actual money if no games are played, unlike StubHub and those other sites. So worst coaching job in all Power 5. Rob says Mississippi State. Staples says Vanderbilt. Shrike going with Rutgers. I'll get to Donald in a second. David says Kentucky is the worst. Max says Texas, which I disagree with. Arkansas from Sean. He says it easy. Jeff with Rutgers. Bama Rutgers for sure. Having a run on Rutgers right now.
I think when I looked at this question, I bring up Jeff's comment, Rutgers or Kansas. Those are the two that I first were drawn to. Then I started looking at other teams, but Rutgers and Kansas, those are the worst two. And it's just flip a coin.
Rutgers is worse. Kansas, you're at least, unless Miles is doing
sucks, dude.
But they're also they can recruit. It's easier to recruit at Kansas.
They suck. They're not good.
When I'm comparing it to Rutgers, it's easier to recruit at Kansas than it is Rutgers. If you let me talk, I will tell you what I'm talking about. So Kansas is definitely down there. The three that I wrote down one that has not been mentioned yet because I think it's an easy place to forget. I wrote down Rutgers, Vanderbilt, and Oregon State. Oregon State is an awful job to have because you're in Oregon where there's not a lot of high school football players there worth anything. All the high school players in Oregon that are worth anything go to either Oregon or the state of California, and you're in the Pac-12, which is a bad conference, and you're near the bottom of that bad conference. I think Oregon State is a really bad coaching job to have because you're in a bad situation with recruiting and your conference, and you're just always going to be the stepchild. Oregon State.
This is something very interesting. This shows you how bad the Pac-12 North was. Oregon State was second last year in the Pac-12 North at 5-7 because they were 4-5 in their conference.
Oh God!
No, I mean that is unbelievable. I'm sitting here; they're 5-7, but they're number 2 in the Pac-12 North.
Yeah, Jeff says Rutgers has a top 22 recruiting class. Just saying. Hey, but it's early, Jeff. It's just May.
Let's see. Yeah, they're white hot. They're red hot because they're red
orange hot. All right, A to Z Sports. I want to get to Donald's comment here because Donald says, I'm a football free agent fan thanks to Vanderbilt. Donald has been the lone diehard Vandy fan who has watched our show with the most consistency over the last 3-4 years. And now Donald is saying he is a free agent fan because of what Vanderbilt has done. I think Vandy deserves to be on this list of worst coaching jobs because of how slamming your head against a wall of concrete is like coaching football at Vandy. Derek Mason has no chance. He has no chance to make any significant changes to the program. He can only do with what he's handed with, and he's handed with literally nothing.
But what about James Franklin? Didn't James Franklin show you that it's not the worst? Like nobody has shown me that Oregon State is not the worst. Nobody's shown me that Kansas is not the worst. Nobody has shown me that maybe Shiano in his first go around, but that's about it. Since then, they've been awful. At least James Franklin has shown me that they can do it. And maybe it was just the trajectory of what the East was at the time. Maybe it was good timing. Maybe it was good marketing. I get it. Vanderbilt's hard to work for because the decision makers don't care about your job and don't care about your program, which sucks, right? That's the worst. But James Franklin overcame a lot of that. He got the indoor practice facility built single-handedly. That's something. That's not nothing. It's not everything.
Yeah.
So that tells me that Vanderbilt is not in the conversation as worse. It may be down there, but it's not in that conversation.
Here's how I got there because, yes, they had back-to-back 9-win seasons under James Franklin, which is very impressive, but those are they were like – they played Presbyterian. They played UMass.
Well, that's what Tennessee should take a note.
And
so should play Oklahoma.
I agree. It's
right. I don't. You cannot
like you're asking, but Zach, like I'm answering your question. James Franklin showed you how to do it. Why can't you do it now? Well, James Franklin did it by beating Wake Forest, Massachusetts, Presbyterian, and Holy Cross. Like that's who James Franklin scheduled in the non-conference.
Then who did he beat in the conference?
In the conference, and I'm looking at 2012 specifically. He beat Auburn at home. And I don't remember that Auburn team was Gene Chiswick's firing, right?
Doesn't matter. Vanderbilt doesn't need to be beating Auburn. He did.
So they beat at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee. So they beat and Missouri. So those were the.
They sound like Tennessee this year, right?
But
doesn't you just named what Tennessee did this year?
I'm not discrediting that.
So right. So how do we view Tennessee? We view Tennessee in a lot higher regard because of the program, the money, and the fans. But Vanderbilt did the exact same thing that Tennessee did this past season. So that's why Vanderbilt's not the worst.
I think, well, I mean, you're right about that point. I'm not discrediting that. But Vanderbilt, with what James Franklin did, they had a win at Florida.
Wait, time out. We should write an article about how Tennessee 2019 is Vanderbilt.
Is James Franklin's Vanderbilt?
Boom. I just figured that out.
There you go. We'll jump on that. Now, Tennessee needs to schedule better to help Jeromy Pruitt in 20. Like they should not have that Oklahoma game. That they're not ready for that. But maybe they are. We'll find out. Maybe I don't know. But Vanderbilt has such a lack of backing from the football program. It's worse than it was when James Franklin was there. And so I think Vandy deserves to be in the conversation. The worst coaching job I think is Rutgers. I think Rutgers is really tough because nobody cares about college football in that part of the country. They have no shot with being in the Big Ten. They can't even climb that.
The one thing that I would say, I agree with no one cares about it, but Kansas, they care about basketball. They don't care about football, and they don't expect. They're basically just nobody goes to those games. And nobody good plays football in Kansas. There's some talented football players in the state of New York and New Jersey and that entire area.
Are there talented guys in the state of New York?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only been 2 first-round draft picks from New York in the last several decades.
Well, just because you're not a first-round draft pick doesn't mean you're not.
But that's a pretty alarming stat. There's a lot of people there.
Where'd Garantano go?
He's from New Jersey, yeah.
There you go. Your boy, Garantano. 8-win season.
New Jersey's a better recruiting ground than New York is.
But I put them in the same realm. I mean, if you're Rutgers, you should be recruiting all of them, right? That's staying at home is your only pitch. Hey, you want to be close to mommy and daddy? There you go. Come to Rutgers. Boom.
Shrike brings up Bryce Brown came from Kansas. So there are 2 guys who are equal success rates at Tennessee, Bryce Brown and Jared Garantano. Okay. So look, there's some guys from New Jersey. New Jersey,
but you don't hear that from Kansas. You just don't.
Kansas has a lot of high-level JUCO too, where you can get some JUCO talent to come in and help your football team, at least jumpstart to get out of that. But Kansas can get – Texas is big enough where Kansas can go in there to Texas and get some. Oklahoma as well. So, look, Kansas, I think it's a tough job. Kansas is bottom 5 for sure. I think Rutgers is just that.
Nobody goes to those games in Kansas. Nobody.
Go to the games at Rutgers? I agree, but – I mean, Rutgers, everything you say about Kansas can be said about Rutgers and vice versa. I think that's kind of what we're at right now.
I know. I'll take Kansas. You take Rutgers.
All right. It is eSports here live on a Monday. Let's get to our end of show topic. We forgot to say goodbye to Instagram Live as it's been an hour. We just kind of forgot and they just kind of.
That's on Zuckerberg. Extend the time.
For sure. All right. So as of today, Davidson County, Nashville's county, can open back up restaurants. So here's our question for you guys when it comes to the reopening of Nashville. Describe how you feel about eating at a restaurant this week. Comfortable, cautious, or scared? Comfortable, cautious, or scared? Describe how you feel about eating at a restaurant. But first, I'm going to tell you guys about renterswarehouse.com. Professional landlords in the Nashville area. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There are ways Renters Warehouse can help you out during these times. If you own Airbnbs or other rental properties for tourism, you can temporarily rent out those homes, those apartments, those condos to renterswarehouse.com. There's no binding contract, so you can supplement some of that income you might have lost from the lack of travel. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go.
A to Z Sports, make sure you check out our podcast network. Tons of stuff and things are changing there. So stay tuned for our podcast. We got tons of content just besides our show. So we're trying to give you, if you are a fan of the Tennessee Volunteers, got a Big Orange podcast on A to Z Sports Network that is awesome. They do a fantastic job with Zach Reagan and Charlie Burris.
Yes. All right. A to Z Sports here live on a Monday morning. Nashville has opened back up. So, look, it's not completely open back up. There are limitations still. 50% capacity for restaurants. But the question is, describe how you feel about eating at a restaurant this week. Are you comfortable, cautious, or scared? Zach, I'll let you start.
Well, I want to read these comments. Max says it's too soon. Elo says, I'm not going out. They're opening too soon. He's scared. Bama Shane says, I'm jumping in the restaurants. I'm comfortable. Kimberly says, it's not going to happen for a while. LGRW says he's cautious. David says extremely comfortable? That's the reason why I wanted to ask this question. I'm very interested in like how people, because everybody's different, right? Let's see. Sean says, no problem eating out. Just don't want to deal with the rush of everyone getting out. I'll wait till everything gets back to normal.
I don't think there's going to be that much of a rush, at least here.
I don't know. We'll find out this week. There's a lot of young people that live in Nashville. And so that's why I don't necessarily agree with your thing. I think young people are less scared of it, right? They're more willing to take the risk.
I think it's hard to group young people. Like, sure, more young people are comfortable than older people are comfortable.
So between the three, I told this to Austin before the show. I wouldn't choose comfortable, cautious, or scared. I would just say cognizant. I understand that the virus is out there. I'm not sitting here scared to death. I don't wear a mask, really. I just don't. I only wear a mask to get a haircut. I actually hate a freaking mask. Hate those things.
Nobody likes the mask, Zach.
Yeah, but I really hate them. I can't stand them. Some people wear them. Well, no, I think some people don't mind them.
Yes, but nobody likes them. Look,
there's some people with like they've made their own masks. They're
just making the best of the situation. It's just not, but that doesn't mean that they prefer wearing a mask.
But out of these three, I'm more comfortable than cautious or scared. I don't play scared. So scared is not the word that I'm looking for. Cautious, I completely understand. I'm maybe in between comfortable and cautious, closer to comfortable. I'm going to go to a restaurant. I have to go to a restaurant. And the best thing is going, and this is my personal opinion. The best thing is going to a place and seeing where people aren't wearing masks. That actually makes me feel better instead of like, oh no, the virus. I like going to the restaurant and look and be like, man, people are getting back to normal. We cannot let this virus prohibit us from living our complete lives for forever. That's my fear. People are going to be scared to death.
So, but this week you are going to a restaurant to sit and eat and drink.
Yes, and I'm not going to go every day, but I need to get the F out of the house. I need to see some people. I need to crack some jokes at random people. I have to. It's something I have to have that.
Right. Yeah. You've been in your house the whole time. I have my wife.
Not necessarily. I've been at other people's houses. Found this is one thing. I found a group, probably about 10.
Well, it can't be more than 10. It better be 10 or less.
Yeah. About 10 of my friends that I'm very comfortable with. And I have seen them consistently. But
yeah, you're quarantine pals.
I got 20 other friends that I haven't seen in 2 months, 3 months.
Sure. Yeah. And so like I am cautious. And this is the funny thing. Rob says you do that on here. Like you go talk to random people.
Yeah, I know.
We can't see you guys.
I know you, Rob. Come on. I know Ethan and David and Elo and Lewis. I know all these guys. Shrike, been talking to them for years. Bama Shane, I've eaten wings with Bama Shane. Captain Kronk, what's up, dude? Donald, as you said.
But we don't see you guys. I look into a camera dot like for an hour a day, like and talk.
I don't just see Austin anymore.
Yeah, I know. Like if you look at if you just like walked in the room that I'm doing this, you would think that I'd be an absolute crazy person because I'm just screaming at a computer screen. And so it's different than like actual like human interaction. So like for me, I am cautious. I probably don't expect us to go to a restaurant to eat this week. It will probably take us next week or whatever to go eat at a restaurant. And even before all this stuff started, we were a takeout family. Like I would go pick up food and bring it home. We'd eat it, watch TV, whatever at home. So I'm sure like would I love to go sit on a patio and have a beer or cocktail? Hell yeah. That's what I'm more looking forward to is sitting outside in a cool environment with a cold cocktail or a beer, not necessarily eating in a restaurant.
I want it all. I want my life back. That's what I want. And my life
you want back, it now?
And I want it now. But I do. And I know I'm not going to completely get my life back. I know that's not going to happen, right? And it's not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe next year. But but I hope it happens sooner rather than later. I've gotten to the point where I'm just kind of like, screw you, virus. I think I've already gotten it. I thought I got it in December. I've told you my conspiracy there. I'm not going to sit there and go out and touch a bunch of things, grab my face and stuff. But I do believe that I have the antibodies. Do you see this? In Arizona, they tested a group of people, a voluntary group of people for antibodies. 20% of them had them. And if you put that in Arizona, that means like over 200,000 people have already had the virus.
Yeah.
Like this virus has been taking over this country for a long time.
Right.
Don't tell me it was December.
Well, and Shrike's correct here with his situation because he's talking about his wife with cystic fibrosis. And he said that friends asked us this weekend to a patio. We said no because she wasn't ready. And that's obviously like so understandable.
Justified. Yeah.
And I've talked to Shrike before about this because he was in our fantasy league. I have a cousin with CF and I've lost a cousin with CF. And that's something that you fear about is people like Shrike's wife who are living with that, the immunocompromised, where, and it's who do you also go around? Because my mother-in-law is still recovering from breast cancer from a couple of years ago. And so if we want to be around my mother-in-law more often, then we probably need to be outside in the community less. So it's all about like what your daily life is like and who you're around and who you could come in contact with that could be in danger from you going to a restaurant or a bar.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I've been affected by, and I think a lot of people have, is drinking usually is a social thing, right? Social, you mentioned cocktails or beer. I always would call up my friends and we justify go out and drink or have a couple of beers to watch a sporting event, right? All of that has been taken away. That's what I miss. Like, I want to be able to call up my buddy and be like, hey, man, do you want to go watch the Lakers play tonight? Because, look, you got 2 back-to-back games. You got a late game, which is probably the Lakers. You got an early game. Let's go out and drink some beer and watch it. And that's what I miss. I want to get back to that.
Yeah. Steven says, my dudes, glad y'all have the show. Very entertaining and funny at times. I think we're very entertaining all the time. Funny, I could get the at times part of that comment. But we've had a great show, great Monday so far. Buck Rising will be back tonight with A to Z Sports Primetime. Apparently there's a report out there about Logan Ryan and what the Titans did not do with Logan Ryan. So we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, same time, same 5 quintuple broadcast places on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and IG Live. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Adios.